back to the Willie Bobo Show. Today we're going to start off with, is school just prison with bright colors? Seriously, I really had to think about that because I saw something that was really eye-opening. I was scrolling through a timeline, excuse me, guys, earlier today, and I ran across a viral clip that, it really stopped me in my tracks because we're talking about a side-by-side visual comparison, and the simple text on the screen basically read, on the top half, it says jail. On the bottom half, it says school. And when you look at the progression of the images, it hits you like a ton of bricks. First, they show you a blacked out prison transport bus, as Snoop Dogg eloquently quoted it as the Grey Goose. Underneath it, a bright yellow school bus. Same chassis, same structure, then the institution cafeteria. Long tables, fixed stools, industrial lighting. One is a state penitentiary. The other is your local high school. The crazy thing about it, they look identical. The food trays, sectioned plastic dividers, the hallways, rows of metal lockers facing each other versus rows of steel cell blocks facing each other. The recreation yards, barbed wire fences surrounding a concrete basketball court versus a chain link fence surrounding an asphalt schoolyard. The caption on the post read, "School is prison with bright colors." Man, that phrase lingered in my head all afternoon. So tonight we're going to spend the next 10 minutes breaking down this imagery. This is an edgy internet meme. Easy to find, guys. You'll see what I'm talking about. I wasn't able to capture it. Or did someone accidentally expose the architecture blueprint of how we socialize our youth? So let's talk about it. The architecture of control. Let's look at the physical reality first. If you walk into a modern American high school built in the last 40 years, what's the first thing you see? Metal detectors, security guards, nowadays often armed resource officers, cinder block walls, minimal windows, and fluorescent lighting that drains the soul. You understand this is not an accident. Because historically, the American public school system was designed during the Industrial Revolution. You have to understand that the goal wasn't to create independent, free thinking, creative geniuses. The goal was to train factory workers. You need people who can sit for 8 hours, move when a bell rings, ask permission to use the restroom, and accept arbitrary authority without talking back. Now look at the prison system. What is the fundamental architecture of a prison? It's compliance, surveillance, and control. When we build schools that physically mimic correctional facilities, what psychological signal are we sending to our kids? We're telling them that this is their natural state, and that state is a state of suspicion. We treat them like inmates in training before they've even dropped a backpack on the floor. The bright yellow colors. Ironic. Yeah, I know. The yellow buses, the blue and green lockers, they're just a coat of paint on a system built on containment. Containment. But it goes deeper than just architecture, family. way deeper than just architecture. It's the policy. We talk a lot on this show about cultural trends and historical analysis. So let's look at how the school to prison pipeline went from a sociological theory to literally everyday reality. So we got to check it out, right? In the 90s, schools across the country adopted zero tolerance policies. Suspensions and expulsions skyrocketed in just for little minor fractions. And I was a victim too. I mean, I did ISS for the most ridiculous shit that I've ever been through in my life, but that's what it was. Talking back, dress code violations, or just showing frustration. You had to become what they wanted you to become. And who did those policies hit the hardest? You guessed it. Black and brown youth in urban communities. Suddenly, a schoolyard scuffle isn't handled by a principal or a counselor. It's handled by a police officer. Now, mind you, yes, some of these kids, we get it. A kid gets handcuffed in front of their algebra class. They get a criminal record at 14 for something they used to merit a detention or a call to their parents. The parents are heavily to blame because they send their kids to school with no discipline, no home training, no way to follow respect. Okay? Because nobody said that you had to become a robot. Just understand chain of command and think about it. We're conditioning our youth to accept constant surveillance. We got apps tracking their every location, cameras in every hallway, and security protocols that mirror maximum security lockups. Again, I get it. Nowadays, unfortunately, it's like that. Unfortunately, it is. If you spend 12 years of your developmental life being watched, policed, and corralled, walking into an actual correctional facility doesn't feel like a shock to the system. Kind of feels like a lateral move. It's a simple jump stop. So where do we go from here? How do we wash off the brighter paint and actually change the structure? It starts with, changing what we value inside those walls. Because if a school looks like a prison, acts like a prison, and punishes like a prison, we can't be surprised when it produces the same stagnation. And then on top of that, a lot of these kids are born in the projects. They're already born behind an iron gate, so it's triple the effect. We got to divest from the architecture of fear. We need more counselors than cops in our schools. Counselors that actually know how to counsel. Because man, some of them don't need that job. Because some of them just don't have the qualifications, and a lot of them just don't care. We need spaces that create creativity, studios, labs, green spaces, open forums, instead of rows of desks bolted to a floor facing a chalkboard. We have to recognize that our children are not liabilities to be managed, they're assets to be invested in. Because the internet memes, it's kind of funny, but it's sadly true. Because it's tragic, because we've accepted it as normal. Bobo family, I want to hear from my community on this one. Parents, educators, students, when you walk into your local school, do you feel an environment of higher learning, or do you feel a heavy hand of institutional control? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know your thoughts.